You're listening to the Bulldog Insider Podcast, brought to you by Essentia Health.
It only takes one step, twist, or crunch to know something doesn't feel right. Essentia Health's orthopedic and sports medicine team gets you back to doing what you love with commitment, resilience, intention. We're here to keep you moving forward. Visit essentiahealth.org to learn more about orthopedics and sports medicine, like nowhere else.
Hello and welcome to the Bulldog Insider Podcast, brought to you by Essentia Health. I'm your host, Matt Wellens, the Bulldogs hockey beat reporter at the Duluth News Tribune.
And I'm Zach Schneider, the television voice of UMD Hockey and My Nine Sports.
The UMD men's program finally begins NCHC play this week. I feel like it's taken forever for them to get here. The women have already been in WCHA play for a while. The Bulldogs host North Dakota at 7:07 p.m. Friday. And as we all need to remember, as we learned just before we started recording this, 6:07 p.m. start on Saturday. I feel like we need to say that like 5-10 times during this podcast. Early start on Friday, everyone. Make sure to get there on time. Check your tickets.
Daylight savings last weekend, and now an early Saturday start this weekend. It's not, I mean, I'll be there, but I might be rushed.
Yeah. We like early starts, but right. Just got to remember.
Just have to remember that.
Just got to remember. 6:07 start on Saturday, Amsoil Arena in Duluth. Joining us on the podcast this week ahead of the series versus the Fighting Hawks is a former North Dakota defenseman who's now in his first season as a Bulldogs defenseman. Welcome to the podcast, Luke Bast.
Thanks for having me, guys.
So when I asked you to come on the podcast ahead of the series against your former team, I warned you that we might talk about the red pepper for a half hour. We're going to really try not to do that, but I'm going to start there because it's the second most controversial restaurant, I believe, in the NCHC, next to Skyline Chili. Luke, I had a source from your team this weekend tell me you are not a fan of the red pepper. Is that true? You're not a red pepper fan? For the record, I am not a red pepper fan.
That is, I shouldn't say I'm not a fan, but yeah, probably wouldn't be my first choice for sure.
That's not,
no.
You're not worshiping it. Like some people worship that place. Your coach, Scott Sandelin, apparently still has red pepper delivered to his hotel when the team's in Grand Forks. I think Jason Herder, another North Dakota alum, when he was a coach here, was also a red pepper fan. Zach, are you a red pepper fan?
You know, I've only had it once. I don't make the trip out from a media perspective as much as you do. I was out a couple years back as a fan and went after a night that the Bulldogs won in the Ralph. And so I don't know if I was in the proper headspace to make an accurate judgment. I remember not liking it at the time, but I would like to go back with a more appetizing mindset than 9 a.m. after a fun night in Grand Forks.
No, that's fair.
You went there at like 9 a.m.? I thought
we went there early.
I thought you were talking at like midnight or something.
No, we went there in the morning
like
after whatever it opened, 11 a.m. or whatever. It was our first like meal of the morning.
Yeah.
And it was, I don't remember it being very good.
Luke, fill us in, like the red pepper. For people who don't know, it's this famous eat spot in Grand Forks. It's very popular with anyone that went to school at North Dakota. It's got a great late night menu, wouldn't you say?
I was gonna say it's not. I don't think it's known for more of a breakfast the type of area that you were eating at it. But you walk by it on the way back to campus from downtown. So that's usually a spot. Often you sit there for a few minutes. But, it's definitely not an early thing. It's more of a... Actually, I mean, technically, I guess it is an early morning thing. But
that's when my buddies, and they went to North Dakota. So that's when they wanted to go, was we woke up in the morning, and it was kind of supposed to be the hangover cure, and it was anything but.
Yeah.
So,
that's funny.
I would give it another chance for sure.
Yeah, they got tacos there. I mean, the big thing is like the grinders. That's what I got the one time there.
Yep.
I don't know, taco meat on a sandwich?
Yeah, no, grinder and cheese tostadas. Those are kind of the two...
I could do cheese tostada. I could see if I had gotten that. I went with the grinder because that's what I was told to get.
Yeah.
And just taco meat on a sandwich just didn't do well for me.
It sounds good. It sounds like it should to me. I love tacos.
Like in Pittsburgh when we were there for the Frozen Four, they like to throw French fries on their sandwiches. I also found that gross. Like,
really? I find that pretty good.
You like that?
Yeah,
I was
I do.
not a fan, and I can't remember the restaurant now, but that's famous for it in Pittsburgh. But I was just kind of like, nope, don't get this. Same thing with Skyline Chili. Just not a Skyline Chili fan at all in Oxford. Whereas some people, Mr. Brad Schlossman, loves his Skyline Chili.
See,
I've
didn't have
never even
Skyline.
heard of that. I don't even like. Where's Skyline?
It's right on like the main drag of Miami there in that four corner
Yeah,
stop or whatever.
I've never even heard of it.
They're not serving that to hockey players before a hockey game.
No.
Skyline Chili is not a good pregame meal. At all.
Doesn't sound like it.
It's pretty polarizing. The only time I've been in Oxford was during their winter break, and so I think there was only one restaurant in the entire city that was open, and so we had to go there 4 or 5 times in the 3 days that we were there. So I've never had Skyline Chili either. Doesn't
makes
sound,
2 of us.
Yeah.
What was your go-to place in Grand Forks?
Ooh, I think Parrots Cay. Have you guys ever been to Parrots
I've heard
Cay?
big things about Parrots Cay, but
Wings.
Yeah, the wings.
wings
They have
are
a special
super
sauce.
good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's called shark sauce.
yeah,
Yeah.
Brad Berry was like adamant about me
Yeah.
when I did the story last year of like places to go in every
Mm-hmm.
NCHC city. Parrots Cay. A reporter here at the News Tribune has recommended Parrots Cay to me. The problem is they open so late. They don't open till like 4 or 5
Yeah.
o'clock of the day, and I got to be at the rink by then. So
And it's hard to get into.
yeah,
Like,
and it's
it's
hard to
really-
get
it's
into.
You need to
really-
wait in line.
Yeah, no, you wait in line for a while.
Yeah,
most
Coach
of the
Barry.
time.
Coach Barry said I should have Parrots Cay delivered to the rink the next time I come to Grad. He said
Yeah.
that's my solution. Oh, just have him deliver it to the rink for you. So I don't know if he's got a hookup that's delivering him.
You're going to drop Brad Berry's name next time?
Yeah, I'm just gonna call. Yeah, this is Brad Berry at Ralph Engelstad Arena. Can you drop off some wigs? You're in a new place now this season though, Duluth. Have you found a go-to place here in Duluth yet? How much have you been able to explore and enjoy the area since getting here?
I think my go-to would be Sir Benedict's or Sir Ben's.
That's a very good
That'd
pick.
probably be my spot. Good soup and sandwich there.
That's a very good pick. Adam
Yeah.
Krause, I believe, is a big fan of Sir Ben's.
That's an impressive pick for only having been here a couple months or whatever over the summer and into the season now. That
Yeah, well-
feels like you've explored a little bit. It's not like your typical, you would expect. That means you're deep into it.
Well, I mean, I can't take credit for it. That's the guys. We often go there once a week, type of thing.
Nice.
But yeah, no, that's kind of the go-to for me, though.
Who's the foodie on the roster? Who's the guy that you go to for food recommendations?
Ooh, I mean, gotta go with I think the local fellas. Probably Joey. I live with Joey, so hey Joey, what's a good spot here? Who else would there be? Maybe Dom James.
Dom James?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think he would be probably a guy that I go to as well. But majority of the time, it's probably a guy with a girlfriend. Honestly, like the guys with the girlfriends probably know the best spots. Obviously, they're probably eating out a little bit more often than the single guys. But yeah, honestly, like I said, probably the guys with girlfriends you go to first.
Those are the guys that know the nice spots and
Yeah,
everything. Like
exactly.
I was going to say the local guys are going to be like, oh, the best food is back at my mom and dad's maybe or something.
Yeah,
right.
Something like that. What has the transition been like for you going from North Dakota to Duluth here? What have been some of the major differences that have stood out and some of the similarities between the area and the program and such?
I think the area, it's a little bit more confusing here for sure. Definitely, I've been lost a few times now, but from the
Grand Forks is very flat laid out.
yeah, you can
easy.
see from the bottom of the stage to the top.
Yep.
No, but from a program standpoint, pretty similar in the sense of culture, which is like no surprise to me. You kind of hear it all over the hockey world. It's very blue collar. I love our coaching staff. I love the group of guys here. They're just like I said, they're very blue collar. Just love to come to the rink, and they're a blast to be around at the rink.
Was there a surprise? Anything that surprised you about, maybe it was one of your teammates that you'd played against in the past that's a little bit different now that you're teammates, or something about the program that was came as a surprise to you once you got here?
Not overly. I'll be honest. I hated to play against low height. I will say that. But obviously, I'm happy now that I'm his teammate, not playing against him for sure.
We talked about this last week with Reese Hunt, who transferred on the women's side from Bemidji State, and you didn't have a ton of games like she did. She played 4 years at Bemidji State, a big rival on the women's side. But for you, having played against guys like Luke and now being in the same locker room with him, what is that like? Do you just now that you're wearing the same colors, everything's good? Did you address it? Is it just kind of funny now remembering the battles that you had, or what was the start of now being teammates like with a guy like Luke?
Yeah, no, I mean, there's obviously there's no bad blood coming in. It was just as a competitor playing against him, I hated it. He was hard to play against. But like I said, you love a guy like that on your team who's just hard-nosed and just a jerk to play against. He loved that on your side.
Now he gets to be your jerk, and that makes
exactly.
everything okay.
Yeah, exactly. And another guy was Dom James. I remember my freshman year, I was like, this guy's just a jerk on the ice. But he's the type of player, I've kind of mentioned it to a couple guys. Dom's the type of player where you don't really understand how good that guy is until you're on the same ice sheet as him, for sure. It's he's a special talent. I'll give him that.
I don't think UMD and North Dakota fans will get mad at me for saying this. I don't think they want to admit it, but these two programs are pretty similar.
Yeah.
And I think that comes from the two men leading them, Brad Berry and Scott Sandelin. They played together at North Dakota. They spent time together they both coached under Dean Blaze. You now having played for both men, how are they different? How are they similar?
I think probably the first thing that stands out for me is just, I think Sandy's, and I'm not like trying to discredit Bubs or anything like that by any means, but I think Sandy has more of a demeanor of a hard-nosed demeanor. When he walks into the room, there's you perk your shoulders up and you make sure your chin's up and your chest is out. And like I said, that's like no like discredit to Bubs or anything like that. It's just the demeanor of them. He's a little bit more, I don't want to say intimidating, but I guess so. I'd probably say that's the word. But I love that. You hop onto the ice and he has an instant presence. But I think the similarities between them is just like the core values of like how they coach, of attitude, work ethic. Those are probably the two things that stand out for me. Obviously, they came from pretty similar backgrounds, so that's no surprise to me. But I think that's probably the two similarities that I kind of respect the most out of them, is that they're just two very blue collar people, and all they ask is that you show the program and represent the program with ultimate pride.
Have you had that moment yet where you do a double take where Sandy said something that was like something you thought was maybe unique to Brad? Like any moment like that yet between the two of them?
Not off the top of my head right now.
See, it's always interesting.
Yeah, not off the top of my head.
It's always interesting with D partners, right? Because oftentimes you see in hockey stuff. I think of the best example at UMD would have been Nick Wolf and Scott Perenovich. Sometimes you get D partners who are just complete opposites.
Yeah.
And then they end up, you put them together and it works out well and such. So
opposites attract.
Opposites attract, and the storyline's been like beaten to death over years. The Scott Sandelin and Brad Berry, and I think sometimes they're both really competitive guys is what stands out. Is that something that because there's been times where they've both been kind of at each other, and then you'll see them a year later and they're sitting at the table sharing laughs and everything together. They're both really competitive guys, aren't they?
No, absolutely, and I think that's just like the moral of the story when it comes to these two programs when you play. Obviously, most guys will have buddies on either side, but for that 60-minute period, you're far from buddies. And I don't think that changes when it comes to the bench bosses either.
What's it going to be like, speaking of buddies you might have on the other side? What's it going to be like your first games? At least it gets to happen in Duluth. You get to wait a while before you have to go back to Grand Forks. But what's this weekend going to be like for you? Yeah, no, obviously it's exciting. Obviously a new change for me. Will be different, but I'm really happy with where I'm at now. And, I can't wait until they come here Friday. We've speculated a lot about ice time and how you fit into the future plans for the next couple of years, at least, about why you ended up in Duluth. But now we get to talk to you. Take me through the transfer process. You play 2 seasons there. You decide you want to go somewhere else. Were there a lot of other teams interested? Did you have kind of a choice to make and ended up in Duluth? What was that process like for you? It was an easy one for me, actually really easy. I wanted to stay in our conference. I knew that was one thing that I wanted to do. And, early on in that process, Duluth and my agent had reached out. And I think that was something that kind of made me very comfortable going into the process, not knowing, obviously, what to expect going through that. But when I heard Duluth was of interest, it was very easy for me. I kind of went into it just knowing, all right, this is a spot that I want to be in. And, luckily it worked out the way it did. Was it just how you fit into the plans? Was it wanting to be in the top 4 or wanting more time on the power play? Was there something specific that led to wanting to leave North Dakota? And have you found that, I guess, through the first 10 games here in Duluth?
Yeah, no, I think I've gotten quite a bit more opportunity here than I did in North Dakota, which is fine. I mean, like I said, I've nothing but good things to say about that program, and I left on good terms there. And but you know what? At the end of the day, I needed to do what was best for me, and I thought this was the best fit for it.
Zach mentioned nice that you get North Dakota here in Duluth first, and then go to North Dakota later. Should preference got to go to Grand Forks in February. Zach speaking like someone. Yeah, Zach speaking like someone right now who does not have to travel down US 2 in February.
Bring me back a grinder so I can try it again.
Might need to stash that in the car in case go sliding off the road or something like that. We had Reese Hunt on last week on the podcast. Zach had mentioned, and if you, to our listeners, if you haven't listened to that podcast, go back and listen to it. I think it's great insight of this whole transfer process and everything in this new world that we're kind of in. And I thought one of the more curious things she brought up was being on the other side of it. As a Beaver, she always heard, her coaches say these certain things about the Bulldogs.
Yeah.
And then for her, it was interesting to be on the Bulldogs side and hear them say things about the Beavers. And we're recording this early in the week. It's Tuesday, election day. So you guys weren't able to practice with the coaches, but I'm wondering, maybe you've heard it from teammates. I don't know if the coaches have talked about it yet. I guess let's start when you were at North Dakota. What did they say about what was being said about playing the Bulldogs? How did they describe the Bulldogs? And having been here 10 games now, how accurate is it? Then we're going to reverse it.
So I have a vivid memory of that. So my freshman year, Duluth was in Grand Forks. I didn't play on the Friday, and we were kind of short-staffed going into Saturday's game. And we were in the video room, and Dane Jackson kind of just said, these are the type of games where you kind of figure out your teammates. And it separates the men from the boys. And I just remember sitting there thinking, like, there's no better opponent to do that against. And that was kind of the message of the story, is like, we're playing Duluth, just a hard team to play against. But there's a lot of respect between, obviously, North Dakota and Duluth. It's not for me personally, being on the North Dakota side, it wasn't like a hate towards them. It was just a mutual respect of, like, these guys play the right way. They just go out and play hard. And you knew going into Amsoil or at the Ralph when you play Duluth, there's going to be a battle, and those are the type of games that they're just super fun to play in.
What have you heard now, being on the UMD side, about North Dakota? And at any time, has it been accurate? Have you had to correct teammates at all? What's that like, being on the other side of hearing those things?
No, it's honestly pretty similar in the sense of just kind of it's going to be a tough game. Like I said, there is a mutual respect on both sides, I think, being on both sides now. But, I think here sometimes people say North Dakota is a bit entitled. Obviously, they get treated a little different than most people. But
they have anti-gravity beds.
Yeah, no, it's...
There's a viral video of the locker room going out there, and the anti-gravity beds, I think, is what jumped at the altitude training. The altitude training room, I thought, was actually pretty cool. I feel like I could use the altitude training room before, and I'm just walking around Denver or Colorado College before going there. But that's probably where some of that maybe comes from.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing for me, I remember Krauser, when he was recruiting me in the transfer portal, he's kind of mentioned, like, hey, like, we don't have gravity beds, and I could have cared less. I mean, at the end of the day, that's not what wins games, whether you have a red light bed or a massage chair to help you feel better. At the end of the day,
I think our mall has massage chairs if you need to go use. Oh, I know where they have them, at the trampoline park. There's a trampoline park in West Duluth that has massage chairs.
50 cents a minute or something.
Something like that. Yeah. So there's massage chairs in Duluth, just not at Amsoil.
Yeah, that's all right. Not a big deal.
Are you excited to be on the other side of this rivalry? And I think, both fan bases could probably make an argument that the other is not their biggest rival. In North Dakota, I think the Gophers might top that list. Denver is on there as well. And for UMD, I think some fans would still say the Gophers. Some fans would say St. Cloud State. But I think a lot of people now here in Duluth are turning towards this North Dakota series as maybe the biggest rivalry matchup of the year.
Yeah.
Are you excited to be on the other side of that? And we know there's going to be at least some North Dakota fans in Duluth this weekend, but then in February you get to go back out there and be on the opposition bench in the Ralph, which depending on how you look at it, could be either a fun thing or a pretty intimidating thing.
No, it'll be fun. I'm not too worried about that at all. Yeah, no, definitely. I think the kind of the rivalry aspect, kind of today, just talking with the guys in the locker room, I would say probably North Dakota's our biggest rival. Obviously, look at the past few years of tournament games they've played in and championship games they've both have played in, and obviously that 5 overtime game is probably the one that sticks out the most, and I'm happy that I'm on that side of the argument now. But
I think everyone was just happy that game. Well, maybe not North Dakota. On the UMD side, we could say we're happy the game ended because they won. That might not be the sentiment in Grand Forks.
No, they'd probably wish they were still playing right now.
yeah.
Yeah, because there was still beer left, from what I remember in Fargo. No food left at the concessions, but they had plenty of beer still to sell. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, we'll have more with Luke Bast. You're listening to the Bulldog Insider Podcast, brought to you by Essentia Health.
Greetings from Northlandia, a place to bring your curiosity, because here you will find curiosities. Whether it's a look inside the Northern Rail Train Car Inn or an introduction to Duluth's musical roboticist, Robot Rickshaw, we celebrate the region's distinctive people, places, and history. Each week, I'm joined by my fellow reporters who share the unique and fascinating stories that they discover while exploring the Northland. You can find new episodes of the Northlandia podcast on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Join us along this journey and discover the extraordinary stories that you just might miss if you're not in the right place at the right time, ready to step off the beaten path with no rush to return, here in Northlandia.
Hi, I'm Maria Lockwood, a reporter with the Superior Telegram. Explore Superior and Douglas County history with me on Archive Dive, a monthly podcast available at superiortelegram.com or wherever you listen to podcasts.
Welcome back to the Bulldog Insider Podcast, brought to you by Essentia Health Orthopedics and Sports Medicine. They're proud to be the team physicians for the UMD Bulldogs and provide sports medicine care to more than 25,000 student athletes in the community to ensure they can compete at the highest level while protecting their long-term health and athletic futures. Thanks to Essentia Health for their support of the Bulldog Insider Podcast. I'm Matt Wellens, along with my co-host Zach Schneider, and our guest this week, Luke Bast. You were telling me, we touched on a little bit earlier in the podcast, the re-recruiting process that you went through. Your brother, Gabe, played at North Dakota, but you had told me he almost came to UMD, right?
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about that. First off, who's Gabe rooting for this weekend? Is he rooting for the Bulldogs or is he rooting for North Dakota? Have you discussed this with him?
No, I haven't discussed it. I'd hope he's rooting for me, though. I mean, we're family, but I could understand maybe why he goes the other way. But, I mean, even if it is that way, I think it'll make it that much more fun. Hopefully I'll have some bragging rights on him there, but we'll see.
Or maybe you change his alliance over. He'll start the weekend like, oh, yeah, I'm rooting for North Dakota. And then if you win 2 games, he'll be like, I was rooting for UMD.
Yeah, right.
All the
Front
time.
runner.
So tell me about, because he was one of your resources that you went to when you were looking at UMD, right? Can you tell us about that?
Yeah. So he narrowed it down to Duluth and North Dakota. Obviously, he made the other decision there. But, I did go to my brother, asking him kind of what his thought process was and why he chose North Dakota over Duluth. And there wasn't really too much said to be discrediting Duluth's program by any means. He really liked the coaching staff here. And at the end of the day, I thought, going into that process, it was kind of about the people and opportunity. And, based off of what my brother had kind of said to me and the information that I was dealt with him, those 2 boxes were checked based on, his opinion and others' opinion. But, like I said, my brother was a great resource for that. And, I'm happy that he kind of went through that process and allowed me to kind of get some better insight to what I was walking into here.
You mentioned opportunity. I don't think people always take that into account, whether it's you're, looking to go to a college for the first time, looking for that first school you're looking to land at, or even transfer to. Sometimes it's timing, right? You look at schools, I think everyone's like, oh, every recruit's going to pick a Big Ten school because they all have charter flights everywhere. And North Dakota's got this fancy, palace of a hockey rink. So everyone's going to want to choose there. But like you had mentioned, that stuff didn't matter to you. And it might matter, I guess, to some recruits. But when players are choosing schools, opportunity is a huge thing, right? You want to know where you fit in, and am I going to get a chance to actually play here and perform and do the sport that you love, right?
Yeah, no, I think I was actually on the phone with my dad a couple days ago, and he was talking to a fellow father from North Dakota, and he just kind of said that fellow father, he just kind of mentioned like, hey, like what would you rather do, fly on a chartered plane and not play, or get left behind, or would you rather fly commercial and play every night? And that was kind of one thing that I was like, that's kind of interesting. And obviously, I think you take the commercial flight and you play every night, I think you'll have a lot more fun, and your college experience will be a hell of a lot better than obviously staying back at home rather than flying on a chartered plane.
What's it like to be the younger brother going through the process where your older brother has played somewhere, or maybe everybody expects you to just kind of follow suit, and now you've got to make your choice as well? Obviously, for the first couple of years, you ended up in the same spot. But what's it like going through that when your older brother has kind of already gone through it and has some advice, and the people around you are saying, "Why don't you just go do what Gabe did?"
Yeah. No, we there was kind of a joke in our household that I was just kind of riding my brother's coattails there for a bit, but he was a great mentor for me growing up. He was a very talented player, and he had obviously a lot of great success in junior, and obviously he ended up at North Dakota, which is a pretty good program in the country there. And for me, obviously I got to learn a lot from him, going through kind of watching his process so he went from Penticton. He played, I think, 3 years there, and then obviously he was at North Dakota. But I think for me, I thought it was pretty cool just kind of watching him go through it. I was drafted in the Bantam draft and really had zero interest in going to the Western Hockey League, and that was mostly honestly due to my brother. He's 4 years older than me, so that was when I was drafted at whatever 14 it was. He was 18, 19 or whatever it was, and he kind of had his commitment locked up with North Dakota, and so I got to see obviously the Western Hockey League route versus the collegiate route, and we have obviously the Rebels back in Red Deer, and we're family friends with the Sutters and whatnot, and so like I said, I had a bit of insight of both routes. My cousin went to Yale, so there was another kind of path that led to the collegiate route, and like I said, for me, there was really no hesitation of me kind of going the collegiate route. Did
your brother's experience in college, did that rub off on like the coaching staff? Did the coaching staff compare you to your brother? I just remember, it wasn't sports related, but I have a younger sister, and she was coming up through school, and she had some of the same teachers eventually, 5-6 years later, and they, whenever she goof off, they're like, you're a screw up, just like your brother. And I feel like I set her up for just
failure.
Yeah, just these.
You're the reason that she has not achieved.
No, she's very successful. She's got a doctorate, but I feel like I set her up for these bars from my teachers. Did the coaching staff have anything like, you're like Gabe in any maybe good or bad ways through your couple years there?
No, but actually, so backtrack, actually kind of to add on to that. So when I was a child in middle school. So I'm the youngest of four. All three of my other siblings went to this other school called St. Francis. And Gabe probably wasn't the best brother when it came to leading like a good name for our family going into the school.
He had a certain reputation.
Exactly. He had a different reputation that I wasn't sure if I really wanted to be a part of. Nothing bad, obviously, just kind of a goofball at school. But so that was one thing. So I went to another school, had a great experience. But, I think from obviously the aspect of my brother at North Dakota, I don't think so. Like me and my brother are complete opposites of humans. And it was kind of funny, like while I was at North Dakota, that was probably like the biggest thing was like, you guys are like complete opposites, yet like identical people. And that was more so like students around the school that obviously knew my brother and now knew me. But from the coaches aspect, no, like they were very well in tune of like me and my brother are very different people, and they never obviously like held something that they had on my brother against me or anything like that. No.
Luke, a couple more questions here about the transfer portal, back-to-back episodes where we have some recruits in here about the about the transfer portal, and it's probably as controversial as the debate in the NCHC over Skyline chili and the red pepper. As someone who went through this process, not as a fifth-year senior, because we've seen a lot of fifth-year seniors go through the process for a variety of reasons, a lot of them academic. Reese had mentioned she couldn't kind of go back to Bemidji because they didn't have a graduate program for her. You went through it as an undergrad. The NCAA keeps tweaking this process and feel like it needs changes. From the student-athlete perspective, are there changes you think that need to happen, or do you think it's working right now in the best interest of student-athletes? What was this experience like for you?
No, I think it's, from a student-athlete's perspective, I think it's great. Obviously, it gives people like myself the opportunity to excel in a different spot rather than where they're at the time, where maybe they're not excelling and reaching the true potential of what they really are. From a program's perspective, I think my biggest thing is if you use it the right way, it's great for a program, but if you don't use it the right way, it's pretty demoralizing on a program, and it kind of shows maybe, some programs' true colors, so to speak. I think that's probably the biggest thing for me is from a program aspect. It's just the way you utilize it can be very beneficial, but also yet very non-beneficial.
Could you tell when you were going through the process that maybe some of the schools that reached out to you that they were using it like free agency, like that this was like pro sports and this is how they were building their program and not necessarily looking to, maybe fill a void or fill a hole? Yeah,
so that was probably one of my biggest attractions to Duluth, was kind of how they explained how they use the portal. It wasn't a aspect of, the shiny new penny, like, hey, this guy's in the portal. We have this guy, but this guy's better than this guy. They never used it like that, and that was the one thing that I really, really respected. They made that very clear to me, that it wasn't a situation where, hey, we're bringing you in to boot someone else out. And I think the other thing for me that I really, really respected out of Duluth was the homework that they did on me. And that was something that obviously everyone talks about, culture, tradition, and all that stuff. And that was something for me that showed, kind of the true colors of Scott and the coaching staff of how much they want to protect the culture here. And obviously they've built this Scott's built this for 20 some years or whatever it is. And this program is nothing without that man. And, I understand why the program is the way it is with how they dealt with obviously myself in the portal.
When you get here as a transfer student, and I think, every successful men's program or women's program across the country has a competition level, right? You have to show up every day and prove it and earn your spot in the lineup. But when you show up to a new spot, are you like a freshman again, where you kind of want to prove that, obviously earn your ice time, but prove that this was the right move and that they, did the right thing by going out to get you? Is it kind of reinvigorating in terms of a competition for you?
Absolutely it is. I think the big thing for me, once again, why I came here was I've heard stories. There's been lots of connections back to this program from family and friends. And I think the big thing for me was like, there's nothing really anything given here, which obviously is the best when it comes to a team sport. There's no entitlement, and that was obviously, everyone talks about the blue culture nature that Duluth has, and I think that's something that goes into that, of the just the consistency of practice. And we've been preaching on that the last couple of weeks now, is like, and you notice it like tenfold, like when we practice hard and when we're good in practice, there's a direct correlation to it in a game. And that's one thing that I've learned here, is that how much you earn is what you get.
All right, we're running out of time here, so some quick hits to wrap this up. You got to take part in 2 destination games during your time at North Dakota, right?
Yep.
Like that, you hit the jackpot there
I did,
on those classes. Vegas and Nashville, if you could do one of those again. Nashville? Didn't even hesitate on that one,
close. Huh? Not even close.
We got a Frozen 4 coming up in Vegas, but you think that we got to get that Frozen 4 in Nashville one of these years, huh?
Definitely. That Broadway street's a fun street.
That's a fun street?
Yeah.
All right. Favorite road trip in the NCHC?
Ooh, favorite road trip.
We're going to take out North Dakota and
obviously.
UMD.
When I was at North Dakota, it was UMD. But now, I'd probably say maybe CC, actually.
CC?
CC,
right.
Fun little rink to play in. Good eat spots. Yeah, no, I'd probably say CC.
That's my
nice
favorite.
Little location.
That's my favorite road trip.
Yeah.
I like them being in the mountains there in Colorado Springs. Being from Red Deer, Alberta, you've probably traveled enough now between there and Grand. You got some experience logging some miles between there and Grand Forks and now Duluth. What's your preference, plane, bus, or car?
Oh, plane.
Plane, without a doubt.
Without a doubt.
And you're fine. And you've said you're fine doing commercial over
Absolutely.
charter. Huh?
I'll take it every day.
Just whatever gets you out of sitting on a bus or a car for a long period.
Definitely.
Red Deer, is that a Flame or an Oilers town?
Our family's Flames. Probably majority of Alberta's Oilers though. Yeah.
What's your favorite NHL team?
Honestly, don't have one.
Don't have one?
No,
Okay.
I'm not going to say I'm a bandwagoner. I'm more of just a player's guy.
Okay.
You know, obviously the guys that I like to watch, I'll watch them, but no specific team or anything like that.
Spoken like a guy with a future. Don't want to eliminate anybody. They might come back and listen to this podcast, Luke.
No.
Well, prior to being married, that's what I was. I was more of a player's guy. I'd gravitate towards teams of players that I covered. Now that I'm married, I'm contractually obligated to root for the Detroit Red Wings.
That was in the contract.
It was in the contract when I said I do. The Bulldogs started their annual Movember campaign. UMD Hockey Marlboros are back at it again, raising funds for men's health issues. Some of those have impacted teammates of yours at UMD. You got the mustache going for the month here, right?
Yeah, I had to start a little early, but I do got it going.
You're one of those that gets a head start.
Yeah.
Your captain, I don't want to say Luke Lowhite got a head start. He likes to sport the facial hair year round. Who has the best mustache going in the locker room right now?
Yeah, I might have to give it to Lowe's.
Lowhite?
Yeah.
Okay.
But if he's ineligible,
okay, that's fair.
Who's the next one?
Ooh, I'm trying to think. Who's around here? Tease definitely not. He can't even grow facial hair.
I saw his photo on the site, and it looked like. I'm assuming I was like, okay, is that him having already tried, or did he? Because some guys like to go clean shaven to start. I feel like those guys are semi showing off a little bit, but maybe it's also an excuse, like, oh well, I shaved it off and I didn't have enough time to grow something.
Yeah, no, I think Stezzy actually might be up there.
Stezzy,
he actually does have a pretty good one going right now. I'd probably have to go with Stez.
Who do you think has the most potential? Dark horse by the end of the month here. Spicer.
Yeah.
Okay.
Definitely.
That's the guy.
Yeah.
Well, if you're the type of person that likes to, we should just do charity betting on. We should add that element to this. Not actual charity betting. Charity betting is okay, right?
I would think so.
Yeah, charity betting on who can grow the best mustache. No one on the coaching. Is anyone on the coaching staff?
No, I don't think so. I could imagine Chupper could probably get a good one going. I think.
He'd be the only one, right?
Yeah, I mean, he has
Adam
a dark.
Scott,
he has the dark facial hair.
Yeah, Scott may ban the rest of the staff from.
Can you imagine Adam
fish.
Krause with a mustache?
That would be great. That would be.
Yeah, that would be comedy.
Speaking of paying money, I would pay money if he would. We'll put a pool together. Maybe we'll get Adam in on it.
Yeah, we should
make a big donation if Adam Krause can. We're going to get a pool together. Adam Krause, grow a mustache. We're going to get some money together to see that. Luke, thanks so much for joining us on the podcast this week. We appreciate it.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me, guys. Appreciate it.
That's all the time this week we have for the Bulldog Insider Podcast, which you could find on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Subscribe and rate us. For more Bulldogs hockey coverage, visit DuluthNewsTribune.com/Bulldog Insider. Subscribe to gain access to all of our coverage all season long. Zach, what's the TV schedule look like this weekend?
Both North Dakota games, my 9 on Friday and Saturday, 7 o'clock Friday, 6 o'clock Saturday. I set an alarm when you said that earlier.
6 o'clock. 6 o'clock start. Remember, everyone,
I have no
on
excuses
Saturday.
anymore.
We're not saying that over and over, so all of us actually remember it. Thanks to our sponsor, Essentia Health, for their support of the Bulldog Insider Podcast. And thanks to all of you for listening. We'll catch you next week.